I'm with John Tomsett, head teacher of Huntington School in York. And John, so you obviously being a head teacher over the last 9 months or so, a bit of a doddle, fairly straightforward.
It's been quite an extraordinary time, and in many ways it's been great to get your teeth into something that you can step up to your plate. You know, I'm in my 18th year as a head, and you feel like you've seen everything now. You know, and finding out yesterday that by the 4th of January I've got to set up a testing site in my school has been extraordinary. So it's been hard, but I say I think it's been hard, just physically hard.
Right.
As much as anything for everybody involved, because we've set the school up and it's all in year group bubbles, and there's lots of commuting between places. But I do 25 duties a week. And what I said to my senior team was this, is that the one thing we've got to do as a senior team is get rid of every barrier possible that's preventing our teachers teaching. Right, you kind of have a sense that you do that anyway, but we've done that in spades, and so the duties. So we have lesson changeover duty, we have morning bus duty, end of school bus duty, lunch duty, break duty. I'm the best paid toilet attendant on the planet. Right. So it's getting out there amongst it, so your teachers who teach I teach 3 periods a week, 2 periods of A-level economics and 1 period of English. The rest of my time has been dedicated to making sure everybody else who's doing the teaching can do it as well as they possibly can. I think what you also find with all the things we put in place, £26,000 worth of hand washing facilities. I don't know how much we've spent on sanitizer and paper towels, blah, 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 blah. But one of the things you find is that people have really stepped up to the plate. Right? They've been amazing. So last Thursday and Friday, peak of the pandemic, headlines across the country of chaos in schools. We have 110 teachers at Huntington, and we lost 1 day of teaching. So everybody was in school on the Thursday. On the Friday, everybody was in school bar one person who was having a test because she'd lost her hearing and thought it might be a symptom. That's unbelievable. Our attendance rates for staff this term are better than last year.
That is extraordinary.
Who would know? But I think it's about, they feel completely safe. We've put in measures that have really looked after them. They know if they've got a misbehaving student, they can press the button and one of us will be along, right? Without any worry about that. You know, I don't look at them and think, oh, you can't control the class. I go and sort it out, right? And they absolutely trust me on that. And the other thing is, and I don't ever really, I'm not a big fan of this. I think probably like you, David, that the best well-being thing I can do is sort behaviour out in the classroom.
Right.
But on my table in my office are 213 individually wrapped by the SLT mini bottles of Prosecco plus a pack of four chocolates, and every member of staff gets them, right?
I think people feel appreciative of that
and
kind
they
of gesture.
love that. They love it, and we did one at half term for making half term, which was a bottle of beer and a tin of gin and tonic and a chocolate orange. This was a bit more upmarket and glitzy, but they think that's really important. So Friday morning, we've got free bacon butters. If you get into school at 8 o'clock, bacon butters, that kind of stuff has helped them massively.
Because I know you've talked about your worry about staff feeling isolated more than normally.
Yeah, and I think I've spoken to more staff this year than I've ever spoken to staff. And what I love about it as well is they ask me how I am. It's really, really, how are you? I said, no, how are you? and that's just been really.
No, how are you? Yeah.
No, it's been just gorgeous. Do you know what I mean? It's just, and because they know you're putting a shift in, because they see you every day. They know that 8:15 on the dot, when the buses arrive, and we don't open school to 8:15. I agree. I go onto every bus to check that everybody's been wearing a mask and looking after the driver, right? Relentlessly. And we had a letter from the bus company the other day saying thanking us because behaviour's been so brilliant this term on the buses.
Right.
500 kids come on buses. So, and the students have been great. Largely, there's lots. Interestingly, there's lots we're going to keep about the new way of working around school.
Tell me about that. What will you keep?
We're going to keep 6 separate entrances for the year groups.
Yeah.
We're going to keep year group bubbles, so all the tutor groups are next to each other. We're going to we're contemplating keeping kids sat in rows.
Right. As an enforced policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As something, actually best practice, evidence-informed best practice. We are contemplating doing far less practicals in science because they take up a lot of time and you can get the same amount of learning done with a demonstration or a video.
Okay. Yeah.
Really interesting.
Yeah. So I can hear some science teachers grinding their teeth.
Well, I've done it. I did a staff meeting last night, staff briefing last night, and I put up all the thinking that we've been doing. I've been doing yes panels. What we've been doing why panels for the last 3 weeks. So I presented to the whole staff and I said, stuff in red we're stopping, stuff in green we definitely want, stuff in amber there's some debate to be had. So science practicals are in amber.
Okay. Interesting.
So there's debate to be had. And
Yeah.
I'll always listen in the end to the experts on the ground.
So if all of your science teachers are passionate, you might budge on that.
I'll say, I so don't get involved in those subject specific decisions because they know better than me.
Okay.
Right. But and the rows, the sitting in rows is an amber.
Right. Okay.
But loads of people have said it's great. So there's lots.
It's a funny thing. I made an off the cuff comment on Twitter saying something along the lines of, I think I found all the classrooms that I've been teaching in kids being in rows makes life really straightforward, and it was such a Marmite response.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be, but I was quite taken aback at how strongly people reacted for and against that. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah, so there's lots of. I think like the innovation in the battlefield in the First and Second World Wars, like there's innovations that have really worked.
Wow, and I think I think that's right. John, have you had to send many year groups home or many bubbles home?
We've had 19 student cases overall,
right,
and 4 staff cases.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty good in a school of 1,500. Well, there's 1,740 of us under one roof every day.
Yeah.
Right? There's no other situation
currently
in the country where anybody has to do that and have responsibility for that. So the responsibility I've had every day for that is immense. And the one thing I've said to staff, which they've really taken to heart, is don't be a contact. Right? Assume everybody's got it at home, at work. Oh. Yeah, but they've done it. They've been brilliant. Right?
I took a day off this term because my wife and one of my daughters went and did a drive-through test with them, and obviously it came back negative. But normally I wouldn't. But you just think, well, it's not about me.
Yeah. And so they've been really good like that. And we've lost. There are several students in Key Stage 3, in Key Stage 4, who've had to stay at home for 3 lots of self-isolation without ever getting it. Right.
Yeah.
And this is a debate we're having across the city of York. Because I chair the York Schools and Academies Board, so we meet 2 or 3 times a week. The meeting I just had
Wow.
Before this was a YSAB meeting. We've asked ourselves the question: has anybody who's had to self-isolate because of being a contact, any student who's had to self-isolate because they're a contact,
Yeah.
ever contracted the virus? No.
No.
So they've all been at home for all those hours and
Yeah.
days and weeks,
Yeah.
and not one of them was infected.
Yeah. I think that seems to be, anecdotally, that seems to be the majority of the experience that I've seen. Yeah, for sure. So just one final question on this then, John. What's your view on the current DfE stance on exams in England?
Crack on. I think they must happen.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, I don't ever want to go. I don't ever want to go through what I went through last year.
No. Okay.
It was so traumatic for the students, especially.
Well, especially for your A-level students, I imagine. That was
Oh,
hell on wheels.
it was hellish.
Yeah.
And the debacle of it, and then the cover-ups and the refusal to release papers. If the Secretary of State didn't know what was going on,
Shame on him.
well, he wasn't doing his job. If he did, he's a liar. So either way,
Yeah, either damned if he does. Yeah, well,
it's an
there's
issue.
been politics has been a masterclass, hasn't it, on how not to do it. It's difficult. It's difficult. Anyway,
Oh,
John, thanks ever so much for that. So, John, you've written 2 books this year, published 2 books.
3. I've got 3. I've got another one coming out in February. It'll be 3.
Wow. Okay. So I know one of them's which I've had a look at, and it's great. Your book on getting staff to thrive, which you co-wrote with colleague John Utley.
Yeah.
But a bit of a departure, and those of you that have followed your writing won't be entirely surprised by this.
No.
A book on fishing.
Well, it was interesting because it came from being in Waterstones 4 years ago, almost to the day, right? And in Waterstones, they have a table of 10 quid books for men, right? Stocking fillers. And I thought, you need a fishing book in there.
And there wasn't one.
There wasn't one. Of course, there wasn't one. So I've been thinking about it for several years. And about 3 or 4 summers ago, I caught my first sea trout, right? Which is a big gig. It's a big gig. I don't know if you've watched the Bob Mortimer and Paul Whitehouse Christmas special that was on at the weekend, but they were fishing the river where I caught my first sea trout, the river at the Yorkshire-esque. And the weekend they were there, I was a mile down the river catching my first ever salmon, and I didn't know they were there. But it's really interesting because I wanted to see if I could recreate the utter thrill of catching that fish and the experience of it in words. So I read Shooting an Elephant by Orwell, because I think that's really brilliant of the graphic feeling of watching an animal close up. But
some Hemingway.
Sorry,
some Hemingway.
Yeah, you've got but Hemingway's not as graphic as that. I always think that Orwell one is amazing, and the breathing. I've
not read that, Shooting Elephant.
The breathing, the animal breathing as it's dying, it's just really graphic. But I couldn't find a medium how to write it. And then I was reading a book called Solar Bones. Have you come across that, by Mike McCormack?
No.
It was up for the Booker Prize about 3 years ago in the long list. And it's an Irish novel, Irish writer, and he writes it all in one sentence, 265 pages, one sentence.
Okay.
And then I thought, that's how I've got to write this thing about catching
this. There's a Tim Perks book that does that.
I don't know it, but it's a really great book. So I thought, that's how I've got to write this thing about catching the sea trout. So I worked all summer on 470 words, all summer, and then I got it just right. So I'd seen this gap in the market for a fishing book, like a diary, and then I'd written this one piece. And then I sat down and wrote notes about all the fishing things I'd done that I could write about, and sent it off to John Catt. And Alex at John Catt said, "Well, we've done a few fishing books in the past. Your books are going really well. I like your writing. We'll give it a go." Right? I think it's utterly a vanity project, if I'm honest.
So it's not. Is it not on the men's gift tables in Waterstones?
I couldn't get it into Waterstones.
Oh,
I've
shame.
even been in Waterstones giving them copies. But what was interesting was, I was going it was going to be a diary, but that would just keep it just for this year. So it's a journal.
Yeah, like an
That,
almanac, isn't it?
it has 52 tales in it,
Right.
and every tale is between. I wanted to make it between 470 and 480 words long, and the average is 476.1. Right, and that takes some art to do, right? So getting a tale that is complete in that few words 52 times, there's an incredible amount of art in it.
Yeah.
When it happened. And then my mate, who's a panel beater in a car repair shop, did the illustrations. He's a brilliant artist. um and the illustrations make it so there's 52 illustrations, and all my mates who feature in it, if they feature in a certain story, I've had the original print framed of the illustration, and then stuck the story on the back as a gift.
Oh.
So it's been great. It's been.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I haven't read it, but I think of all the people who write in the sphere of education, you are by a country mile the most thoughtful, careful writer. I always enjoy your reading what you've written. So even though I've never fished in my life, I'm sure I will read it. But
if you give me your address, I'll get you a copy sent.
For two lucky readers, for viewers, if you we're gonna send out in time for Christmas, so we're not gonna wait till next week. All you have to do is email us at hello@wastingyourtime.co.uk. The first two that come in, we will send a copy of John. What's it called again, John?
It's called An Angler's Journal: A Lifetime's Fishing in 52 Tales.
Brilliant. So if you want one of those for the man in your life,
or woman, the angler in your life.
The angler in your life. Absolutely. Thanks ever so much.
All right. Thank you.